Hi, welcome to Comptroller's Corner. I'm your host, Pat Curry, joined as always by Buffalo Comptroller Mark Schroeder. Our top story today, an audit of the fire department's payroll procedures found that civilian employees in fire headquarters earn an average of 90 more hours of overtime per year than uniformed firefighting personnel. The audit also found that overtime earned by civilian administrators in fire headquarters was often not properly documented, approved, and often earned from home. Now, Mark, this audit uncovered some of the issues that the fire department payroll procedures are facing, and you're looking to work with the commissioner in fixing these issues and make sure that overtime paid is overtime worked.
Yeah, no question, Patrick. So first of all, just so the viewers have an understanding, that the city auditor, under my request, over the last several years, has done a number of timekeeper audits. There's been 6 at least. And in the first one, in one of the early ones, it was a combination of many, of which we did cite fire, and we were concerned about it. To the Commissioner of Fire's credit, to his credit, in September of last year, his request, he wanted to meet with me to let me know there were some things that he's concerned about, which I was already aware of because we've already done a number of these timekeeper audits, which is distressing to me because it's clear that it's a paper system. And a paper system is unusual in this day and age of 2016. Every place around, private sector and even Erie County and other places, it's all automated. And so it's disappointing to me that this administration hasn't done the automation that would set employees up for success as opposed to this. And so we are very concerned. We did a very specific audit on fire. And so what you suggested early on is absolutely true. The firefighters, the public safety officers, they have a system. They have a system in place so that if there's overtime or certain things, there is documentation. Within the administrators within the fire department, it is the wild, wild west. They do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. And the commissioner, to his credit again, in his response to our audit, said those days are over. Well, we'll be the judge of that because we're going to be watching this. And as you know, Patrick, we do anniversary audits to make sure that the departments are doing what they say they're going to do to protect the public.
Now, I just want to go through some of the findings of the audit. We mentioned at the top of the show that these civilian administrators earn 90 more hours of overtime per year than your average firefighter. Now, you think because of the predictability of office work as opposed to firefighting duties that really the overtime shouldn't be so needed in the fire administrators if with sufficient personnel in place in order to process this payroll.
Oh yeah, that goes really without saying, and I can tell you, nobody will dispute that. Nobody will dispute that. The Common Council's not going to dispute it, and they haven't. The commissioner's not going to dispute it. People who work in the administrators on the fire department, they're not going to dispute this. Listen, the people who are putting their lives on the line each and every day, the public safety officers, the firefighters, there may be times when they can't go to work because they're physically sick or they're injured, and so therefore somebody else is going to come in and then there's going to be overtime. That is granted, we know all of this, but this is a little ridiculous in my view, and I'm told from the mayor, from the commissioner, from others, that this is going to be a thing of the past and they're going to really watch this, and they should.
Now, speaking of firefighting personnel, they have to get prior approval before they work overtime, and they have to fill out a form. It's signed by 3 different people. And that wasn't occurring for the civilian administrators in fire headquarters. They were actually they weren't even documenting the hours worked, no indication of when the work was performed, what hours were worked, what work was done, or why the OT was necessary.
Right.
It wasn't approved prior to, and the documentation after the fact was also lacking. The commissioner said he addressed that, and you're going to be watching that.
Oh, we're going to watch it. But Patrick, the one thing that I do know, over time, there has been an evolution to the firefighters' credit in terms of how they do overtime. At one time, a long time ago, it wasn't very sophisticated. Now there is a wheel that gives everybody who wants overtime an opportunity. Within the administrators, there's no setup, there's no organization, there's really no system, and that is a problem, and that's one of the reasons why the numbers are so skewed to the civilians as opposed to the firefighters. And I take the commissioner, who I believe is a very good man, I take him at his word that this is a problem. He recognizes it, and that he's going to do something about it.
Another problem that your audit exposed was the use of signature stamps, a rubber stamp instead of an actual signature. Now, you don't consider that proper approval because no one knows who actually is in possession of those stamps.
Yeah. So you know the old saying, practice what you preach? I've known for some time in the Comptroller's office, there are some stamps with prior controllers' names on it. I can assure you, Patrick Curry, my name isn't on one of those stamps. I sign documents. Even if I have to sign 50 documents, I sign it. And I don't have a stamp. And I would encourage others with responsibility, management responsibility, do not allow your stamp to go to whoever wants to use it for whatever purpose, because there's no accountability there, and it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't take long to sign your name.
Now, you looked at some of the overtime request slips, and all 373 had some stamp on it. And also, the signature stamp was used in timesheets as well. 21% of timesheets examined did not have the handwritten approval signatures. Now that's an issue with you because not only is this just, this isn't just a letter that's being signed with a signature stamp. This is a document that has an effect on the city's bottom line. It has a fiscal impact on the city. So you want to make sure that a signature is authentic and actually given by the person whose name appears.
No question about it. That's been our position all along, and we've made it abundantly clear in our audits. We've also reached out to all of the commissioners. Most of them comply on this, but some haven't in terms of certification of payroll. And we are insisting that the commissioner or designee sign the certification of payroll. If they don't, we will call them until they sign it, or we'll get corporation counsel involved, or if I have to call the mayor and say, Mayor, we're not going to pay people because it's not being certified, and it has to be certified. And so these are the types of things that I have a responsibility to. I recognize it, others do too, and we're doing this really to protect taxpayers, and we're going to continue to do it.
Another issue your audit found was that there were civilian employees in fire headquarters actually working from home and earning overtime from home. There was no documentation of that being an allowable practice. And the commissioner has said himself in the council floor that it has gotten out of control and he's going to put a stop to it. But your audit exposed this practice.
So quite frankly, in all due respect to everybody, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. There's really no authorization for that to happen. I mean, I understand in the private sector, there are some doctors who have some employees work at home because it's better for their practice. Listen, this is a municipality, and what's good for one is good for all. And so if people have to show up to a location and go to work for 6, 7, 8 hours, that's where they should go. And if they want to change the charter, and they want to say that people can work at home because it's the wave of the future and technology will allow it, I'm good with it, but it needs to be under statute. You just can't do it because you think you're in charge, because you're not. The taxpayers of this city are in charge, and we're going to continue to watch this. And I'm under the impression that there are certain people within the administration who are embarrassed by this, and they want to fix it. And they should, and they will.
So in addition to working from home, not having prior approval of overtime work, not having proper documentation of overtime work, these employees in, at least one employee in civilian fire headquarters was actually taking 8 hours of sick time and then earning overtime on that same day,
Yeah.
often upwards of 6 hours of overtime
Yeah.
on a day where this employee had already taken 8 hours
Yeah.
of sick time.
Yeah,
So,
impossible. You can't do it. Can't be done.
In essence, they'd be earning time and a half for the 6 hours. So this employee could be getting paid for 17 hours for
Yeah.
6 hours of work, which could have been conducted from home.
Yeah, yeah. So it's an impossibility. It should not be done. It will not be tolerated. And look at, the administration, they really have to police themselves. We have a big responsibility as the controller and audit and control. We have a lot of other areas. We have accounting responsibility. We have debt management responsibilities. We have audit responsibilities. We have a lot of other responsibilities. Those who are in management positions in the city of Buffalo, they need to manage their departments. And if they don't, they should go find another line of work. It's real simple.
Another issue you found was that when an employee in civilian headquarters would often take sick days, which there were many taken during this audit period, the other employees in that division would often earn what's called acting time, which is a part of the union contract, which allows person who is supposedly doing another person's duties to get increased pay.
Yeah.
But what your audit found that even with this person taking sick time, the other employees earning their pay for the higher employee, they weren't actually doing that higher employee's work. They admitted to the auditors that they were doing just their regular duties and getting paid more for it.
Yeah, so the fire department in this particular case is lagging behind a little bit, Patrick, the other departments, because to the mayor's credit and to Tim Ball, the corporation counsel's credit, this was a problem that we identified some time ago, and it was dealt with for the most part. It's very prevalent here, as you indicated, in the fire department, and they need to do something about it. They have said to us and to the council that they will do something about it. And now, quite frankly, a lot of people are looking at this, and there's going to be some scrutiny to make sure they adhere to the rules that we have really put in place that we shouldn't have had to. There are rules, and you need to abide by the rules. If we need to be Big Brother, we'll be Big Brother. But at some point in time, they have to manage their departments.
Your city auditor, Kevin Kaufman, offered the help of your department, a timekeeper and an auditor, in order to make sure that the fire department's payroll was done properly and accurately, especially with the suspension of an employee in the civilian headquarters. After initially verbally agreeing to have Kevin Kaufman's help with this, in writing, the commissioner responded that they currently have sufficient personnel in order to process payroll. But you say the offer still stands. If they ever want help from your department, they can get it anytime.
Yeah, and Patrick, quite frankly, the only reason why I offered it, and the reason why I offered it is precisely to what you said. There was a suspension that the administration initiated with the timekeeper. And so, therefore, I wanted to be helpful to the fire department so that the next payroll would be on time, because I don't think any person, firefighter or civilian, should be delayed in their pay. So I wanted to make sure that they are properly know how to do this payroll. And so the offer still stands, even though we were disinvited, the offer still stands.
Now, one of the things you're looking towards, and you're actually meeting with the administration on this, you wrote a letter to the mayor about your concerns, is a whole new timekeeping system for the city to avoid some of these issues and make a more electronic, automated system of keeping payroll.
Yeah. So Patrick, I'm often very candid, but I'm also very respectful. Quite frankly, the mayor's in his 11th year. We shouldn't be talking about this right now. There's no automation for timekeeper. There's no automation. This is a paper system. This is Fred Flintstoneville, and it's archaic, and it puts employees at risk. And so we made it very clear to the mayor. We made it very clear to the mayor that timekeeper has to be considered this year. And the mayor has agreed that the process will begin this year so that we will have automation. And quite frankly, I also made it clear to the mayor that if you don't do it, I will do it. I really shouldn't have to do it. The comptroller shouldn't have to be doing this. It's really a function of the administration under the mayor of the city of Buffalo. But I am convinced now that the mayor will go in that direction.
We got to take a brief break. When we get back, I want to talk about your inspection of homeless shelters in the city of Buffalo.
Okay, sure, Patrick.
Stay tuned for more Comptroller's Corner after this message.
Are you unemployed, underemployed, or do you need to improve your job skills? Then the Buffalo Employment and Training Center is here for you. The Buffalo Employment and Training Center is your one-stop employment shop. Whether you need help with your search, access to information, seminars, or training, our expert and caring staff is here for you. And the best part is, all of our services are free. The Buffalo Employment and Training Center is conveniently located at 77 Goodell Street in downtown Buffalo with plenty of free parking. For more information, call 856-JOBS or visit us on the web at www.workforcebuffalo.org.
Hi, welcome back to Comptroller's Corner. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced in his State of the State address an initiative to inspect homeless shelters across the state to ensure their safety. Governor Cuomo tapped Comptroller Mark Schroeder to lead the inspections of the city of Buffalo's homeless shelters. Mark, you went to every single one of the city's homeless shelters,
Yeah.
and you led a team of inspectors from the city, the county, and the state just to make sure that these facilities were safe for residents who rely on them.
Yeah. So, Patrick, I think there's a number of reasons why I decided that I was going to visit every one of them myself. And I think it dates back to when Andrew Cuomo was a young man in the 1980s. He actually developed 501c homeless shelters in New York. When I went to visit Andrew Cuomo as a citizen 12 years ago when he was going to run for Attorney General, he reminded me of his work as HUD Secretary for President Bill Clinton. And he used a quote, Matthew 25, when you do this for the least of my brothers and my sisters. So I know that this governor is very serious about this. And I went to the State of the State in Albany, and he really wants to do a comprehensive look at homeless shelters across this state. In the largest city in this state, New York City, and the second largest city of Buffalo. So to County Executive Mark Poloncar's credit, he was a tremendous partner in this. As you know, social services under him, under the county executive, have a very intimate relationship with these homeless shelters. The county executive also started MOUs, a memorandum of understanding, with the 11 different shelters in the city of Buffalo. Also, the mayor of the city of Buffalo, Byron Brown, was very, very helpful in this project, where he gave me the opportunity to work directly with his commissioner, Jim Comerford, of inspections, and also the assistant director, Lou Petrucci. They were phenomenal. And then, as you mentioned, the state, under the governor's direction, OTDA, the Office of Temporary Disabilities Assistance, they came in with a number of people. One person who was mostly involved in the case worker aspect, but then another who was an inspector, but he was from Albany. So to have a city inspector who's very, very familiar with Buffalo, it was very, very helpful. This was a collaboration, and we did this in about a 3-day period. The shelters across the city of Buffalo were extremely cooperative, and we did our work. And so now the information that the governor was looking for is now being developed for him to take a look at, and then he will decide what he's going to do next. But as you know, Patrick, from the State of the State, he did mention that he wants to allocate $20 billion over the next 5 years for homeless shelters. You cannot invest taxpayer money without assessing what's going on at these shelters. So I give the governor credit for this comprehensive statewide approach, and I'm looking forward to the results shortly.
Now, what you found in Buffalo shelters were there, aside from a few minor issues, Buffalo shelters provide a safe and habitable experience for the residents who need them.
Yeah, there's no question about it. But you know, there's such a difference between the city of Buffalo, which the viewers know, and the city of New York. For instance, in New York City, there are over 600 homeless shelters. In the city of Buffalo, there are 11 or 12. And so there's a big difference. But to your point, those who operate these homeless shelters in Buffalo, in my opinion, because I went to all of them and I pretty much know who a lot of these folks are, they are good, solid citizens trying to provide a service, trying to help people get a second chance, and trying to keep the community safe. And so, for the most part, that's exactly what's happening in the city of Buffalo. But I'm sure the governor will unveil this when he's ready.
Now, the team you mentioned had City of Buffalo building inspectors. It had caseworkers from the Erie County Department of Social Services and personnel from the state offices who expertise would be either casework or the physical structure of the buildings.
Yep.
There was a very comprehensive checklist that went through for each shelter. It was pages long.
Yeah.
that focused on the interior of the building, exterior, the linens, the beds, the food preparation, the kitchen, the cleanliness of everything. And every nook and cranny of these shelters was looked over and documented under these checklists. And that information is going to be compiled and released in a report. And it'll be good for the public to know that these facilities have been looked over and if there's any issues that they need to be addressed.
No question. It was a very comprehensive checklist. It was all encompassing. And also, quite frankly, Patrick, in the city of Buffalo, 75 to 80% of the homeless people will go to the city mission or their sister facility over on Main Street and North near your great former high school, City Honors. And so therefore, there are other shelters who are smaller, some of which are completely voluntary. Volunteers. Nobody gets paid, and they don't take a penny from the state or from the county or from the city, but they allowed us to come in because they understood what the governor is trying to do here, and especially to those who volunteer their time each and every day to provide a service for those who are unfortunate right now. I give them an awful lot of credit.
You mentioned the city mission, where most homeless people use that as a facility. They're undergoing what's going to be a large expansion to increase the amount of space they have, because right now they're a little bit cramped as far as what they're able to do to help homeless people.
They're very much cramped, and because they also have adhered to some of the initiatives of this governor, including what is called Blue Code, in that when the temperature gets below 32 degrees, it is incumbent upon all who operate homeless shelters in the state of New York to welcome and bring in people from the cold. And so that also creates situations in terms of space management, and this is one of the reasons why the city mission will be doing a major expansion.
Now, you mentioned the case management part of it, and the city mission and other facilities do this where they work with these homeless shelter residents in order to get them back on their feet, find employment, find other housing elsewhere. And from what you found is they're been pretty successful in transitioning people from a tough time in life into a more successful, productive one.
Yeah, so I'm sure the viewers of the city of Buffalo know this, but I want to make the point. This is just not a bed or a cot. There are programs and services that every one of the homeless shelters in the city of Buffalo are providing services to educate, to help people do better so that they feel comfortable and confident that they can go out on their own. And many times the homeless shelter is a facilitator for them to find more permanent housing. And so it's very comprehensive, and they're doing a very good job here in the city of Buffalo.
Now, Black History Month just wrapped up. Tell us a little bit about your efforts to espouse Black history in the community and some of your favorite stories about Black history.
Yeah. So February is Black History Month, and just a couple of weeks ago, I was next door at the Meriwether Library, and they have a essay writing contest, and it's under the name of Dr. Carter Woodson. Dr. Carter Woodson is the father of Black history. And so the essay contest is named after him. And it's a number of our Buffalo Public School children, including one of the winners was Jason Amos, who works in MIS. His son has won 2 years in a row with his essay. And so it's fascinating for me because I love to be with young people, and I like their energy, and they read their essays. And when they give me an opportunity to speak, I like to tell them certain things that they may not know. And so one of the things I said to them is that Frederick Douglass, who is the famous abolitionist, from around the 1850s or so, he had a rough time in America and needed to get out of town for a little while. So he decided that he was going to go to England. And while in England, he took a side trip to Dublin in Ireland. And the great liberator of Ireland is a name of Daniel O'Connell. He was the great liberator of Ireland. And so Frederick Douglass went to a Dublin rally. And you can imagine a black man walking into a room, everybody's kind of muttering, who is this guy? And Daniel O'Connell says, I'll tell you who that guy is. He's the Black O'Connell of America. He's trying to liberate America. And so at that time, to have an Irish leader, Daniel O'Connell, there weren't many world leaders who were saying anything about slavery in this country, but Daniel O'Connell weighed in. Now, Patrick, the last time I looked, I've never seen a statue of Frederick Douglass in Buffalo. I know there's one in Rochester, but I've never seen one in Buffalo. I've seen one in Ireland. Cork University has a statue of Frederick Douglass. So this is a lesson for all. That from a historical perspective, that we all can work together to achieve whatever the opportunity or the objective is.
Now, you mentioned Ireland. Now with March here, it's what you like to call St. Patrick's Month, because in your neighborhood of South Buffalo, it's more than just a day.
Yeah, where we come from, there's no such thing as St. Patrick's Day, and so it's St. Patrick's Month. And I like to talk about the history, and I like to correlate great leaders like Frederick Douglass and Daniel O'Connell and others. And this also commemorates the 100th anniversary of the Easter Uprising of Ireland. And so there, and at the Buffalo Irish Center, Patrick, as you know, this is a place of culture and study. Irish dance, Irish language, and so I think it's an important part of our history, and all of the ethnic groups in the city of Buffalo, in my opinion, really take care of the historical perspective of what we're celebrating. And when they do celebrate, it's usually because of a fundraiser to make money to be able to underwrite the culture and the study of the ethnic group. So it's a beautiful thing in this town.
It's more than just a parade. It's a historic learning experience about Irish culture, especially this year with the 100th anniversary.
Yeah,
of the
the
Easter
first
Uprising.
Bishop of Buffalo, Bishop John Timon, would preach and say to people, listen, this isn't about dyeing your hair green or drinking green beer. It's about knowing your history. And that has stayed with us for the last 200 years.
Well, Mark, thanks for joining us on Comptroller's Corner. That's all the time we have today.
Thanks, Patrick.
And thanks at home for joining us. Make sure to check out our YouTube page, our Facebook page, and our Twitter handle. And don't forget to check out the Comptroller's website at city-buffalo.com/controller. On behalf of Comptroller Mark Schroeder, this is Pat Curry signing off.